Good evening. LinkedIn Live, YouTube, Twitch, Periscope, and Facebook. Just wanted to test out another live stream, mostly to see if this little gadget here allows me to have two HD cams at once. It's pretty cool. It's just a $25 board, and as you can see, it worked. So, that's not what this live stream is primarily going to be about. This live stream is primarily going to be about the importance of reskilling. So this week, in the recent weeks, Microsoft has announced an enormous initiative to reskill folks on cloud technologies. I think that's important because what the COVID pandemic has really shown is that the service economy has some flaws. And let's be honest, we kind of suspected it had flaws to begin with. But here we are. And there's a really good report that I blogged about on franksworld.com. And let's see if I can get my desktop to show. All right. What you see is kind of a hot tech skills and certifications that you could get in that you can get now that are very popular. I think this is critically important. I myself did also reskill from a front-end kind of developer to data science or just general software engineer. Into data science and artificial intelligence not that long ago. So it's definitely something that's very fresh in my mind. In fact, I recently got a one of those notifications on Facebook, so many years ago today, and I posted, I was very happy that I passed my data science certification exam, officially making me a data scientist. I've been doing data science for a little longer than that. But in the absence of a PhD, I was very happy to have the official certification, making me one of the cool kids. And it wasn't that long ago. It was only a few years ago, 3 years ago, so I passed that test. But there was still an active debate about, do you need to be a PhD to be do you have to have a PhD to be a data scientist? And obviously now we know that answer is no, but I think that what this reskilling situation here is very interesting. It talks about, this whole report is actually really, really good. It's free to existing customers only, but it does talk about kind of the it's weird, it worked before. Let's see if we get this here. Yes. So we get a, this is what I read. But talking about the hot skills to get. Obviously, it says that these are not certified skills. I disagree with that. You can get courses either on LinkedIn Live, Pluralsight, Udemy, that you do get a certification for doing. Coursera also has various things, and I'm pretty sure Udacity does too. What we're seeing now is the rise of distributed learning platforms, or Moocs. The traditional education paradigm is coming apart, and it really wasn't scalable. I mean, if you look at the cost of college over the years, it's been going up substantially. So there was a part, I think it was in Scott Adams' book, How to Fail at Everything and Still Succeed, where he talked about getting his MBA. And get this, it cost him $5,000 to get his MBA. $5,000. Imagine that. The whole thing. And here's the thing, is that you were guaranteed, somewhere in the book, you were guaranteed a six-figure salary, right? So the 25 times invest, 25, Yeah, can't do any math. 20 times investment. 20 times. Sorry, it's late. It's late, and I looked, and I don't have any Dr. Pepper down here. So, that's amazing. Now, that same degree from that same university is probably, well, it's not $5,000. The cost of education has gone up. There's probably multiple reasons why that is, but the fact of the matter is the traditional educational system is not going to look the same post-pandemic that it did pre-pandemic. And we assume it's always been this way, but it really hasn't. Prior to probably the end of World War II, college was not an assumed thing that everyone did, or most people did. I think that the model doesn't scale. I personally don't think that model scaled, and you're seeing that in the prices going up. I mean, you used to be able to work your way through school, but at the cost now, you can't. Then it became you could save for it, and that's no longer the case. Then it became you could invest it, and that's quickly becoming not the case. You have to have the financial acumen of a Warren Buffett to be able to create an investment portfolio that would grow at the pace that college costs have been. And honestly, if you have the financial acumen of Warren Buffett and you're getting an education to get a better job that pays better, it solves itself. It's kind of pointless. So I think the rise of these micro or these massive online certifications, whether they're one of the ones here on the list. My wife is actually currently studying for the CISSP, which oddly enough is not on this list, but you get the idea. It's in the security space, in case you're wondering. But if you look at this and you look at the rise of platforms like Udacity, where they have a micro degree or a nano degree or micro masters, that I think is the future, because these degree systems can be a lot more agile in how they handle changes in curriculum. I mean, if you get a comp sci degree, everyone, the curriculum, I don't know how it is now, because it's been a while since I've been in college, and I do have a degree in computer science. But what we learned there was really the fundamentals. You could not go from taking a data structures class, and we were using, at the time, I think the language we used for data structures was PL1 or Pascal. PL1 kind of being a dialect of Pascal. You probably never heard of, most folks have not heard of Pascal, but at one point it was a very popular language. But in industry at the time, the winning languages were C, C++, and Visual Basic. Now that was the financial services industry, kind of early mid-90s. That was the hot language. This is before Java, and obviously before C#. But I had a computer science professor, brilliant guy, very brilliant. He was so brilliant, his connection to reality was very tenuous. Let me put it that way. He ran OS2 on his desktop, and this was pretty much after the movie had ended on OS2, but he insisted that it was a superior product, and maybe it was, right? But and we really have to rethink what that means, right? It is now. I don't regret getting a degree in computer science at all, but I question whether or not these programs can keep up with the rapid pace of innovation. Now, obviously, there's going to be some people that will disagree with me, but if you are in a position where you need to reskill, right? So say if you had a job that is effectively over because of the pandemic, there's a lot of interesting opportunities that are coming out because of the pandemic. One of the ones here, the phrase that got my attention was hyper automation. That's fascinating. Hyper automation. And I think this is a real, I don't know, there's even a Gartner video on it, so you know it's legit. There's a real opportunity here to not only learn AI, but find a specialty in AI. I think that, and I see this a lot in terms of my day-to-day. There was a time when you were a data scientist, and that was it. And anyone doing kind of advanced analytics was called a data scientist. They did the data wrangling, they did the algorithms, and the deployment of the models. Well, maybe not the deployment of the models, but they would create the models and then just hand them off. I think what you're seeing, I did a recent class, and it was about kind of data engineering. You know, it was kind of like data engineering in the cloud or something like that. And what was fascinating to me was there was I posted on my Instagram, I think I posted on my Instagram, but basically said data engineers wrangle data for data scientists. And that kind of, I paused the video, I'm like, that's actually kind of nice, because you know, most of the time spent in data science is data wrangling. And no one really, well, I wouldn't say no one really likes it, but it's one of those things that you just got to get done, right? And I find that fascinating, that is evolved into its separate discipline. Now, it kind of makes sense, because DBAs haven't been doing DBA-like things realistically. If you look at SSIS, or what my co-host on the podcast, Andy Leonard, does, I mean, he does data engineering. He's not a DBA. And I think that's always been a discipline. It's just getting a lot more attention now, because the oohs and ahs of data science and AI have really gotten a lot of attention. But I think that there is some concern that we're headed towards another AI winter. An AI winter is basically, you know, when Alan Turing kind of posited post-World War II what it would take to build an artificial intelligence system. A lot of people kind of ran with that, and it turns out that pretty much the processing power wasn't there yet. And a lot of the neural network theories and stuff that we take for granted today, the neural network structures, were really pioneered in the 50s and 60s. They had a resurgence in the 80s, but it kind of fizzled out because the CPU power wasn't there. The compute wasn't affordable yet. We see that has changed, but there's some people that are concerned that we're going to run out of compute, or the cost of compute, even if it's in the cloud, is still going to be prohibitive, and it's going to inhibit innovation. I don't think that's an immediate concern. I do see that there's some weight to that argument. A year ago, I would have been like, please, that's just crazy talk. But the more I think about it, I think that it's not an immediate concern. It doesn't keep me up at night, but it does. I can see it happening now. Like, I can see we're particularly when you look at transformers and those type of BERT models, the amount of compute that they need is more than our appetite for compute in the AI world is becoming insatiable. Now, does that mean there's going to be a full-on AI winter? No, I don't think so. Realistically, it's a chance, but I don't think it's a distinct possibility. But even still, right? Even if innovation in AI stopped tomorrow, there's still going to be for data engineers, right? Because even with the algorithms we have and everything we have in place today, the work's still got to get done. And the COVID pandemic has accelerated digital transformation, right? Digital transformation is a nice buzzword where you have a much more agile, cloud-enabled enterprise IT, or even small business IT, that can be agile and pivot on a dime. Part of that is going to require AI. And I think that with the pandemic, I think the notion of hyper-automation is going to be the norm, because if you can, the less human touches or interaction that you can have in kind of, whether it's a customer service scenario, it's an interesting space to be, and I'm definitely going to watch that YouTube video. In fact, you know what? Let's experiment. Let's see if the YouTube audio will actually play.
The top 10 strategic technology trends are trends that are shifting, changing, reaching key tipping points, and driving disruption.
Cool.
These are the technology trends that you can't afford to ignore. We're taking a look at the technology trends around two themes this year: people-centric smart spaces. Hyperautomation is the first people-centric trend. Hyperautomation looks at two things. Number one, an expansion of automation, where everything that can be automated will be automated. Second, hyperautomation looks at going from RPA and task-oriented automation to adding much more sophisticated AI-based process automation.
All right, that's definitely very fascinating. I didn't click on this link before because this is the Gartner report, and it's the top 10 strategic trends for 2020. I think that there's something to that, where anything that can be automated will be automated. And is that going to get rid of jobs? Yes and no. The service economy, I think, has had a pretty decent run, but I think that the knowledge economy, I think we're going to be transitioning from kind of the service economy to a knowledge economy, and that's where I think that skilling up is definitely going to be. I think the trend going further. Pick a topic. My advice personally is pick a topic. Pick something that you're interested in, whether it's computer vision, NLP, or natural language processing, and get into it. Start experimenting with it. With data engineering, trust me, data engineering, if an AI winter actually does happen, that's fine. Because even in winter's good for some folks. If you shovel lawns, not shovel lawns, you mow lawns, you shovel walkways. But there's plenty of people that that make a good amount of money whenever it snows, and there's plenty of people that do well in the summer when it's mowing lawns. And I mean, the point is that whether there's going to be an AI winter or not, there's going to be some jobs in this field, in the technology, kind of the RPA automation space, that I think are going to do fine no matter what. I think IoT is a fascinating thing. I do have some Raspberry Pis. I played around with some of my, back in my civic tech days, where I really should get back into that, because there's definitely some stuff I want to automate and play around with. I actually reconnected the solar generator the other day, and which came in handy when we lost power for a little bit. It's a very low power solar generator. It was meant to power kind of automated detection system based on the Raspberry Pi and an Arduino. So it's not going to power a house. It's only 55 watts. But hey, I built it. I kind of understand how electricity works now. And I see I have my first comment. Hey, Ben. Ben's a great name. That's one of my son's names. LOL. I'm glad I made you laugh. I'm not quite sure what made you laugh, but glad I made you laugh. Hope you're having a great day or evening, depending what time zone you're in. But I think that we're really looking at the rise here of something very intriguing in terms of, the opportunity to change careers for a lot of people. You see kind of the skills that have come up in here, and it's not just AI, right? Obviously, I'm a data scientist, AI engineer, ML engineer, whatever. Now, for my day job, I've been working on becoming also a data engineer and getting deep in those skills. So I would say 4 months ago, I probably would have said that I was 90% data scientist, 10% data engineer, because I was on a team when anything data engineering related, I had brilliant people working with me on my team. And now I'm kind of the data guy on my team, the data and AI guy. So a lot of customers come into the MTC, and they ask for, I have to know everything. So I would say now I'm 2/3 data scientist, 1/3 data engineer. I'm gonna try to get to 50-50. My heart is definitely in the AI space because that's very fascinating and very intriguing, particularly reinforcement learning. And let's see, Ben. Oh, the snow comment earlier. Yeah. I'm gonna shovel my lawn this winter, and I'm gonna mow my driveway. Um, yeah, it's late. It's late for me. It's just after midnight here in the Eastern time zone, and I was so excited to get my extra USB 3 bus. Actually, this computer is so old it doesn't have a USB 3 bus. At the time, on an earlier stream, I was explaining when I bought this computer, it was like a ridiculous cost upgrade. It was like $100 or $200 to get a USB 3, and I was like, but that's the nice thing about desktops is, I waited, 5, maybe 6 years, and here we are, and I, 25 bucks. 25 bucks and a screwdriver, and I have my USB 3, so I can have 2 webcams. So the question from Ben is, which one do I like better? What are you referring to? Which one is that? Like the mowing the lawn, or wait, no, shoveling the lawn, or mowing the driveway? I should probably do neither. I should probably mow the lawn and shovel the driveway. No, I don't know what you're talking about. Do I like desktops better, or what? I'm happy to answer the question. Though I am going to turn into a pumpkin pretty soon. There's also like a 30-second to 1 minute lag on the live stream between when you hear what I said that made you want to ask the question, and then when I see it and then when I respond to it. It's kind of like, I don't know if you watch The Expanse, but that's actually a big thing. And they you watch like Star Trek, right? It's real-time communication across the galaxy. Maybe one day we'll get there, but we're not there now. But The Expanse, it's a little more based in science fiction, science fact, and people, what they talk from Mars to Earth. There's like a 2-3 hour delay. I forget what it is. Oh, data science versus data engineer. Which do I prefer better? The fun thing about data engineering is you get the immediate gratification, right? A package works. You get the data from point A to point B, and it's always a gratifying feeling when you get that done, and it's a much easier, you can say you're done. With data science, you have to sit in it for the long haul. So it's definitely, you have to, data engineering is one of those things where I wouldn't say it's quick, but you know what you need to do. You need to move data from point A to point B. And then you can move it. Then you have to think about efficiency and cost and things like that, particularly with cloud services and such. But I kind of like that. It's kind of, what it's like? It's like the difference between like sprinting, like running really fast, like 100 meters, versus like a marathon. If you're doing a data science project, it's a marathon. Like you have to kind of be in it for the long haul. It's fun because you're doing crazy stuff. I mean, for me, I think it's crazy that an algorithm can learn on its own. That's science fiction, at least when I was a kid. Data engineering is kind of a nice, let's move the data from here to here. Let's do some transformation. Let's do some ETL, ELT. It's kind of cool to see. I like that. I moved 10 petabytes today. That's crazy. That's kind of what it is. I got another comment, and I apologize if I'm going to mispronounce your name. It's Manivanan. My name gets butchered all the time. My last name, and it's Levine, Lavinia, whatever. I respond to anything that anyone calls me, as long as it's not vulgar. And that may have happened once or twice. So your question is, you're from India, so it's good, night. It's probably daytime there. How to be a data scientist? You want to be a data scientist, but you don't have a computer background. You're 10 years of experience in the IT industry. Well, I think a lot of that depends on. Oh, good. I'm glad. Hopefully, that answers your question, Ben. I think it's a personal preference thing too. Because there's a lot of data engineers that think that the AI stuff is beyond them, like they don't want to do it. I don't think that's the case at all. And there's a lot of, I don't want to say a lot of, but there's more than one or two people in the kind of the AI kind of research space that think the data engineering is beneath them. It's kind of the vibe I've been getting for some folks. Not everybody, but it's kind of like, dude, come on, man. You're moving bits from one point to the other. It's not, you're not hanging drywall. And trust me, I don't mean that in a bad way. If once you pay somebody to hang drywall and you pay the price, you're like, I really need to learn that. And this is someone who's renovated a lot. I mean, look at my ceiling here. Like, I had a flood months ago, and because I'm underneath the kitchen in my house, and I wish I could fix that. I could fix it, but it would look really nasty. All right, so your aim is to be an AI scientist. So you're not from a computer background, but you're in the IT industry. I'd like to know more about kind of what do you do in the industry? No, I think you're right. I think AI is at the Stone Age. You're right. AI is in the Stone Age in the sense of there's so much we need to do. I was on a podcast maybe about a month ago called AI Inception, or AGI Inception, Artificial General Intelligence Inception. And they're talking about kind of what does an AGI look like? Artificial General Intelligence is kind of, it would be a conscious entity that would be artificially created. I think we're some time away from that. Now, granted, if you told me I would be working on computer vision systems 10 years ago when I was writing my Silverlight book, I probably would have thought we were way away from that. So take that for what it's worth. But yeah, I do think we're at the Stone Age. I think, but I mean, you put a sad face, but I think that's a good thing. There's so much room. I mean, can you imagine, like, being at the dawn of, well, I was there for the dawn of the internet, and I drive a Honda, so clearly I didn't do the Mark Andreessen thing. But, the key, I think, is there's so much opportunity. Because we are at the Stone Age, someone's going to invent bronze, and it won't be in the Bronze Age, and it won't be in the Iron Age, and you get the idea. I think it's an exciting thing. All right, so I have an answer. You are a test automation engineer. So, I mean, don't sell yourself short. I mean, you do have a computer background. You're a test automation engineer. A lot of folks. You've made kind of one of the, I think, the biggest jumps in going from point A to point B, in the sense of you're an engineer, you think like an engineer. That engineering is a mindset as much as it is a skill. You want to pick apart things. You kind of want to know how things work. That is a skill, right? That's a mindset. So you're definitely there. If you want to get into data science, I don't know if it's still available, but there's a lot of good courses on Wintellect now. I even have a couple of courses there, and I have a whole thing on data science for software engineers. And I mean, it's just about the hardest step, honestly, is getting started, because you have to find the course that speaks to you, or YouTube video. Right? You don't even have to pay for this stuff anymore. I mean, that's the beauty of the age we live in, and why I think education and reskilling is going to completely change. When I was a kid, it was made pretty clear to me by my parents I was going to go to college. I was going to be an engineer, a doctor, or a lawyer. And if I didn't want to go to college, the Marine Corps recruiting office was on. They gave me the address of that. But the key is you don't have to spend a lot of money on this. I would search around on YouTube. Certain people, it's just I listen to a lot of training, right? Like I'm obsessed. I'll be honest. I'm obsessed about kind of improving my skills constantly. And sometimes you just hear something, right? You hear the same thing 100 times, but somebody says it in a way that resonates with you, right? I don't, like everybody has their own kind of way they think and stuff like that, but you hear something and it resonates. And I think that's really the key, is finding a course or YouTube channel or whatever. Siraj Raval was that guy for me. And if you just search him, a lot of his videos are good. There is some drama around plagiarism and stuff like that. But you know what? Is he a perfect human being? No, because the perfect human being doesn't exist. He made mistakes. He made mistakes in owning up to his mistakes. But you know what? He was one of the few people that was providing inspiration at a time in my life I needed the inspiration. Because a lot of debate at that time was, you need to go back to school and get a PhD. In fact, a lot of people I spoke to look to the mentor, they were like, oh yeah, just go back to school, get a PhD. And at the time, I had just been laid off. I have 2 kids, a house, and all that stuff. There was no realistic way for me to go back to school that way. So I took advantage of the time we live in. And much has been said about how bad the world is. I mean, yeah, but we live in an age where if here's an example. 3 days ago, I was setting up this setup that you see here with the multi-camera, and it failed, right? Because when I try to get the 2 cameras working, and I'm like, right? And oh, thanks, Ben. Positive outlook. Yeah, if you do podcasts, it's a really great podcast. It's Ed Milet, EDMYEMYLTT. I will look it up. I like his stuff. It's just good. Here we go. He's a little wild. Move myself out of the way. But he's got good stuff. Like it's just a good podcast. I highly recommend it. Very inspirational. Very positive outlook type guy, which I think the world needs more than ever. Yeah, so I'm sorry, I kind of rambled. It's like 12:15 midnight here. So you need a suggestion on best online end-to-end course for AI. So there's a guy, Udemy. Let me share my desktop. I seriously do need to go to bed. Frank Kern. I like this guy. Not just because his name is Frank. Where is he? This guy. Frank Kane, not Frank Kern. So let's see. We'll look at his name. He has a lot of good courses. He has a pretty interesting resume too. He's worked at Amazon. He's worked on IMDb. I think even Netflix. He has a lot of good stuff. I buy a lot of his course, but I think the best place to start, honestly, is just dig around YouTube. There's I like AI end-to-end. This guy is awesome.
One of the most exciting recent developments.
Andrew Ng, he is incredibly brilliant. I wouldn't start there because his stuff, he gets into the math pretty quickly. I think a lot of this depends on what your comfort level is with mathematics. For me, I despised math as a kid. Honestly, it wasn't until I got to trigonometry for some reason where a light went on in my head and I was able to go from the bottom of the class to kind of the top. Let's see. Siraj Raval, his stuff is actually pretty good. He does a good job of explaining the concepts. Yeah, you have to kind of walk around the bad news about him, but he has a lot of good, like this one here, TensorFlow in 5 minutes.
In my prior
and so Siraj has got talent. I mean, he really does have talent for explaining stuff and making stuff entertaining. And you know, if you go, and I saw this, I was like, not even you can explain this in 5 minutes. And then lo and behold, he actually does it in 5 minutes. Like it's just impressive. His stuff is good. He may or may not have created the code behind his stuff, but I like the fact I like his high energy. Now, he may not be your cup of tea, so dig around. I really like this guy. Who else is this? Don't tell my boss I use Google or Chrome. I think it's Loonicorn. Loonicorn. I don't name him. I just come up with it. Yeah, no, exactly, Ben, you're totally right. Like, I mean, we live in an age where I can spin up a cloud machine, like a super powerful, 64 core, terabyte of memory. I could spin up that machine. Probably don't want it on for more than 3-4 hours a day, but the fact is I can spin that machine up, run an experiment, and do it. So Loonicorn is a pretty good course. They have a couple of good things. Mostly I remember doing their Hadoop and Hive type stuff. Hadoop and Hive are more data engineering, but honestly, you know what? Janani. I think that's one of their names. Loonicorn is a group of like 5 or 6 people. 2 women and 3 guys. They've all worked at Instacart, kind of a number of big startups. It's not a person. It's like a band. It's a music group, if you will, a learning group. Shoot, a name popped into my head, but it went out. Let's see. Oh man, it's on YouTube. Even. Oh, Graham Malcolm. This guy. Here we go. Not that Graham Malcolm. This Graham Malcolm. See if he has any videos. This guy is an awesome teacher. He has a course on LinkedIn Learning. He actually did a lot of the training I did when I got my data science certification, which I would recommend, but they no longer offer it. Sorry, that decision was made way above my pay grade. But he explains math that I struggled with in middle and early high school in like 15 minutes. It was perfectly clear. Now, is that because I'm a little older now, a little wiser? Maybe. But I think he's just an excellent teacher because he takes the really most difficult concepts and boils them down. He's brilliant. There's another site, edx.org. It's not free, but it's relatively cheap. If you type in AI, let's see what we got here. Applied AI, Foundations of AI. IBM, believe it or not, has some really good courses on here. I have not experimented with this one, but I did take a couple of these deep learning. Yes, deep learning stuff. Yes, this one. It was kind of like, I took a couple of these, and it's like, you don't freak out when you see the $400 thing. It's like, each class is like $50 or $90. Like that's basically it. So, and then you get a kind of a certificate for this. Is the best place to study research papers? Yes, if you're comfortable reading research papers. Research papers can be a little challenging, for the non-research person like me. That was kind of hard. There is a really good YouTube channel though called 2-Minute Papers. Love this guy. This guy is genius. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name because I'm very sensitive to that because my name gets butchered all the time. But he basically goes through and, this one is really cool. It talks about hide and seek. He basically goes through in 2 minutes, more or less, kind of the research papers of the day. I love his channel because I can kind of keep my finger on the pulse of what is the cutting edge. This guy was talking about deep fakes 3-4 months before, the general public got wind of it. He was talking about GANs pretty early on. What's interesting here, there's a consistent theme here in terms of AI, in terms of its ability to do image processing, whether that's for augmented reality, or taking a 2D image or a series of 2D images and stitching them together to a 3D experience. I guess they're kind of related. As well as rendering kind of fluid simulations, that sort of thing. He's all over the place. But tell you what, Manavanan, if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, just shoot me an invite if we're not already connected. And I'm definitely want to do more of these live streams and kind of talk through kind of some basic principles and stuff, how to get started. Let me know if you think that's a good idea. But I'm really glad you all joined my stream live. Thanks for the comments. I need to get some sleep. I have a busy day tomorrow. But if you're not watching this live, leave a comment. I always try to respond and whatnot. Hey, no problem, man. Subscribe. My kids have been watching a lot of YouTube since school's been closed down. So when my little one will say, "Be sure to like, share, and subscribe," like, he's a 5-year-old YouTuber. What is going on in the world? But I mean, that just shows you. You look at how the world has changed. Yes, in many bad ways, but I think there's a lot of new opportunities here. We are on the threshold of a lot of great things and stuff like that. So I will do a lot more of these live streams. Particularly now, I have I'll do it multicam setup. But I definitely want to do more. I also have the podcast, datadriven.tv. It's right there. So I will be doing a lot more of these. I've been trying to do a lot more of them. Trying to do them on my laptop too, which actually has been working pretty well. Restream has made the experience a lot better. And oh, cool! You're in Virginia. Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm in the DC area. So. Awesome. Yeah, it's kind of late, so it's bedtime for us. But I was so happy to get my little USB hub installed. I haven't done hardware stuff in any meaningful way since like the year 2000. Like seriously, like building my own computer and stuff like that. I haven't done that in a while, so it's always cool when I get to exercise that. I was hoping to. I dug this up and I talked about this on an earlier stream. Your eyes do not deceive you. This is a Windows Mobile, I think 5. It's got the singular logo on it. They no longer exist. They were bought. Oh, there we go. This is pre-iPhone, Windows Phone. No, it was Windows Mobile. Yeah. I plugged it in and it just didn't turn on. So I was kind of hoping to kind of get a retro experience here. But hey, Matt, anytime. I'm really glad you. I'm really glad you watched it. Yes, we are neighbors. I'm up in Montgomery County, just outside DC. But Thank you very much for tuning in live. If you're watching this later, thank you very much. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, as my son would say. You have a great evening.